a six hours journey from Pune. In order for them to get a respect, what they did is they ordered 114 Mercedes sedans from the dealer in Pune. And the guy at Pune, the dealer at Pune is looking at that order and saying, "Are you crazy?" He said, "No, come on over." So they actually took their PowerPoint presentation and the samples of their cars. They sold 148 cars in one day. And look at the publicity that particular action has caused. Now almost all luxury goods are going to find their way to Aurangabad in India.
Yeah, stories like that always make you feel good. And I hope that those rich millionaires in India will do something to contribute back into the Indian system and infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because, you know, certainly they have the money, and if they could only channel it to help the country itself, that would also be nice to see.
And by the way, folks, it's not only in India, Russia, Brazil, China. There are second-tier cities. There are citizens up there that are kind of rich and have made a lot of money.
Well, at the opposite end of the spectrum, you know, during the Commonwealth Games, a lot of people noticed that the city of Delhi had been cleaned up. You know, there weren't any beggars on the streets. Well, this was actually part of an active effort by the government to clear the streets in anticipation of the Games of all the beggars.
Yeah.
So this article, which appeared on DNAindia.com, was "Where have all the beggars in Delhi gone?" They actually were put on trains and sent to other cities and told not to come back into the city until the Games were over. This has actually stirred some controversy within India because, of course, you know, these evictions are carried out under the guise of city beautification and urban renewal measures. But what they really do is they criminalize the poor people and disconnect them from the NGOs that are in these cities to help them. So, you know, it just goes to show you some of what happens in the backyards and away from the public view when you do host such a large-scale event like this.
That, I remembered, also happened in China, where through the Great Wall, the back of the Great Wall, was all the poor people. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's easy to take a stance on this position and say, well, that's just cruel and a terrible thing to do. On the other hand, you know that if people are coming to your country and if that's the very first thing that they see, it really removes their ability to see the rest of the country because they're just so mired in their first impression. So this is a tough one. I mean, I hate to see this happen. I wish there was a better support system in general for people who are forced into those circumstances.
Hopefully it works for them.
Well, this is an interesting story out of Bloomberg Business Week. You know, you've heard of T-shirt design?
Yeah.
There's a company called Threadless that actually came up with a bunch of designs, and then they asked people to vote on the best design.
Yeah.
And by doing so, they did two things. One, they got themselves popular, and two, they got people to input and provide feedback. Well, that concept now has carried on to just about everything, including a couple of other types of contests where people have entered designs, or even, for example, chose out the next color of the M&M candy.
Yeah.
Right, by vote. So this idea of public voting on designs is catching on quick. Well, Threadless is now taking this concept even further. They're partnering with Dell Computers.
That's right.
To provide, you've seen these skins, you know, these very fabulous skins that you can put on your laptop or on your, even on your iPods and your phone.
The outside skin.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a way to personalize these objects and make it yours. Well, now these designs, people will be able to choose and select the best one, and Dell will actually create a laptop skin to reflect that design. So you can have a very personal T-shirt with your phone, with your M&M candy, with your computer in tow. You can be matched head to toe because of Threadless.
But that is, I mean, the designer who made that design gets paid. It's not a whole lot of money. For instance, a best T-shirt design, they'll get about $2,000
but
and
imagine
$500
the
in merchandise.
Publicity, right? To have your design being embraced by a manufacturer and used on its products.
That's right. I mean, it's very hard to get a job as a designer in some of the locations, but this is one way of entering into those design contests.
Absolutely. You could walk into a job interview and say, that's my design on your computer. And if I can be accepted by the public and they voted for my design, then, you know, there's no way you can't hire me for a job.
That's right. You know, the other day I went to see the movie called Social Network. I want to tell you, I was totally impressed. This is, folks, a movie about the Facebook, the invention of it. I want to see it. It's very exciting. But the interesting thing in that was there were 2 lawsuits filed, and a breach of contract was such a great study.
It's very relevant for our times, too. I actually thought this movie may or may not be received well at the box office, but it turns out that because it was well made, I think it's going to get a lot of attention.
Or it's going to be an Oscar winner.
You know, it's interesting because if you've been watching all the shows, Mark Zuckerberg, the guy on who this movie's made, he's been doing the press tour, right? He was on Oprah, he was on a bunch of shows, I think, to try to improve his self-image in anticipation of this movie coming out.
Folks, his company's worth $26 billion. He owns 51% of that company. So recently you may have read about it that he also wants to join Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, and he wants to also give money. He's very big on education. And I love to see so many of these billionaires, they're now looking at bringing competition to the education forum in the high schools and in the middle schools, in the public schools of the United States of America.
Wow, I'm impressed that you beat me to seeing this movie. I'm going to have to go check it out.
Yes, this is a very good movie to see.
Well, folks, that's about all we have for you today. We hope that you've enjoyed the show, and we hope that you have a wonderful week ahead.
Namaste.
Namaste.